brotherhood, multiplication, restoration. We are Sin Network. We're a family, planting churches together. Join us as we hear from leaders of this movement from across North America and discover what it really takes to plant churches everywhere for everyone. What is up, Sin Network? I am here. I have a very special guest today. I am here with River Parton, and she is our spousal development specialist. You know, how does it feel to be a specialist? Is that,
well, I'm pretty new to the role, so I don't feel like I'm a specialist at much of anything, but
okay. So good. For our Sin Network audience, when you talk about you're new to the role, explain to them.
So I just started working for NAM in April and am working with church planters' wives, mostly focused on the Midwest, but all over the United States and Canada.
Okay, so you're a COVID hire.
That's right.
Yes, you got in just in the nick of time, specifically because, I mean, this has been some very turbulent times. I mean, there's a lot going on, a lot of things taking place. And what I love about you is that you are in the soul care profession. You are a licensed professional counselor, and that is in your, can I say your former life? I mean, in your past profession, and so how do you bring and work that in, and how do you see that will connect with what we're doing with Sin Network, your role in Sin Network?
Yeah. Well, one of our things we really believe in the Sin Network is healthy church planting couples plant healthy churches, and we want to plant healthy churches. And so we really want to be about coming alongside planters and their wives and their families and really making sure that they're healthy and giving out of an overflow.
So yeah, and you and your husband planted Neighborhood Church in Kansas City. So how long have you guys been going?
3.5 years. So we've been having services for about 3.5 years.
Yeah, 3.5 years. So how has the COVID-19, the pandemic, how has that impacted you guys as a church?
Yeah, I mean, like it has everyone, we're not having gatherings. What's unique for us, well, it's not very unique for church planters, but we meet in a school, and our school district has already said no meetings until at least through August. And so we're continuing to meet online and just praying and asking the Lord for wisdom and what that might look like, and having some home gatherings. Do we gather outside somewhere? Those kinds of things. So lots of questions.
Yeah, I mean, people that are meeting in schools, that is going to be a hard impact for a lot of people meeting in schools. And so I know that kind of wrestling through those things has got to be hard. One of the things that I was even thinking about was specifically, like it'd be one thing for us to just have the pandemic, but that's not it alone. There's been so many other factors, so many other things. I saw one meme talking about like, we need to apologize for being disgruntled about 2019, with 2020 coming on. And that's so real, because it's the reality has been like 2020 has been hard. And it was just like, I was looking at the news the other day and just looking at like, a 17-year-old bug or something that has been underground for like 17 years decided to come out in 2020.
No.
And it's like, of course.
Daddy, I reject that. No.
You reject that? So, but I'm just saying, like, something that has been underground for 17 years has decided to pop up, and what they said is, it's harmless, but again, besides it's the noises that they make and all that, but it's just really amazing what 2020 would bring. So yeah, I mean, this is one of those things, but we're in it. We are in it, and thank God that we serve a God who's still in control. He hasn't lost control of everything.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, River, I would love to talk to you about just soul care. I would love to talk to you about everything, and specifically soul care in the midst of turbulent times, because the reality is that this pandemic has really hit us all hard. By the way, for us in Georgia, it's been since March 14th. That's kind of the day that I kind of hit, because that's the day when we are all forced to become homeschool parents. We were all forced to like go home, all those things. And so since that time, but since March 14th, we have been exposed to the Ahmaud Arbery. We have seen the death of one of our pastors, Darren Patrick. We have seen Ravi Zacharias come down. I mean, with with cancer. We have seen so many different things. And now even recently, we have seen, I don't know if you saw about the woman in the park and, with, as a black man and, what's going on with there. So it's just kind of like all the different things that happened. George Floyd just happened in Minneapolis. So it's just like all of these things taking place. And that, even though these may not be hitting in our specific neighborhoods and our cities, but they bring about trauma. They bring about like different types of impacts with so many different things. How is it pastoring, a flock and guiding a flock in these type of turbulent times?
Yeah, you're so right, Dahadi. There's so much. I mean, you just listed a lot. All of that's overwhelming. And we have all the particulars of our own context. And it's so much. And, I think it's important for us to remember that we're fundamentally receivers. We were created to receive. And when this is what's all around us, it is a lot. It's a lot and it's overwhelming. And I've been so encouraged and keep reminding, I've put it on Post-it notes in several places in Matthew where Jesus says, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden." I think every church planter, every pastor's family can say, "I'm there. We're laboring and we're heavy laden." And then Jesus says, "I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." And I think that rest for our souls is what we're actually really craving during this season. I think, the world has come alongside of this thought of like, we aren't God and we can't do everything. And the self-care movement started in the West. And there's been some really, really helpful tips and suggestions that have come out of the self-care movement. I think the best thing out of the self-care movement is to say we can't do it all on our own, that we need to be refilled. And I think for us as Christians, we know that is turning to God, that we have to be filled from Him in order to give to others.
Yeah, I think that's really huge. This past Sunday, I taught at our church just the idea of in turbulent times or in like times of crisis, kind of the author of Hebrews giving the congregation a warning. And that warning was, that we see in Hebrews chapter 10, 19 to 24, after he talks about having such a great high priest. And as you were talking about, this high priest calls us he says, like, "I'm concerned, cast your cares upon me because I care for you." But then what's also interesting about that is that in there, he kind of gives us three principles. And those three principles that he told us in there, he was like, one, we are to draw near to God. Second, he says that we are to hold on, keep practicing the disciplines that God is. And then the third one is that we are to watch out, watch out for one another. And, and that's just like, that's really critical for us as we think about like turbulent times. So, being able to do those things, because the reality is that you cannot give what you do not have, right. And those pastors, planting couples, it is really critical for us to make sure that we are pouring into ourselves and we are spending time so that we can give out, right? And I think that's why I love the idea of drawing near, holding on and watching out. It's just like, and those are times like in times of turbulence, in times like the COVID-19 pandemics. So what are some ways that you and your husband have been practicing, or what are some like thoughts that you have when it comes to soul care, in times of pandemics?
Yeah. One question that I have to ask myself pretty often is, am I seeking distraction or am I actually seeking care for my rest for my soul? Because we have a lot of options for distraction. I can't get a manicure right now, but that used to be my go-to distraction, was like, I'm gonna get my nails done. It's gonna make me feel better for a couple hours, maybe a day. Right. But true soul care has a lasting effect of rest on our soul. And it's really looking past the moment towards the future. And so it's kind of caring for your future self. I don't know if you've seen any funny memes about that, but thank you, past self, for doing the dishes last night or whatever. So a few practical tips I would give would be some of these are not always our favorite things, but they actually really care for our souls. The first would be exercise. And some of you love exercise, some of us don't, but the
I was like,
research.
that is not caring for me. Cause I worked out. I mean, I try to work out on a consistent basis, but I'm like, I dread it all the time.
Yeah,
But it's one of those things that you do feel better after. Like
that's
every
right.
single time I drudge
Yeah.
doing it, but I always feel better after. So that's great.
Yeah, and there's a lot of research. I mean, there's scientific research that shows exercise is as an effective treatment for low levels of depression and anxiety as medication.
Hmm.
I mean, so there's chemical things happening in our brains. High intensity exercise actually releases endorphins. So there's just a lot of great things from exercise. Actually, low intensity exercise sustained over time creates new nerve cells and growth in our brain. So this neuroplasticity concept of our brain actually growing happens with low intensity exercise sustained over time. And so we're not saying you have to get out and be a CrossFitter, although I know a lot of our folks really love that. But just do something consistently over time can really care for your soul. The next tip I would give would be, and this again is not a popular one, sleep. The CDC actually has said sleep is a public health problem, that in the West, we do not get enough sleep for our bodies. So that's another one would be try to get good sleep, try to exercise.
I need you to come tell this to my children. There's like neither one do they want to do either one of them. They don't want to work out and they don't want to go to bed. So, I think it is so critical. I mean, I think the older you get, the more and more you begin to just like really appreciate that. And I really do think that that's really important. And that's you kind of, I like the word attention, right? Mm. It's when we are tending to ourselves.
That's right.
And I don't know if you've ever read the book, How Full Is Your Bucket? But it's a great book that just talks about every interaction and every conversation that you have, that it's one or two things. You're either pouring into someone or, being poured into and being poured into. And so in that, I think what's interesting is that they talk about the more that we pour in to people, the more we got to be poured into, and it's so critical. It's sort of like that old, the airplane analogy, right? Mm-hmm. Like whenever, if the temperature goes down or we lose air pressure, first put the mask on yourself before trying to put it on your child. Because that's right. A critical thing for us to do as it relates to this, And so like times of need. I love what you're saying is that being able to differentiate between kind of what are your motives for the soul care, because like you can sometimes go into self-preservation mode, right? Yeah. And, and lose our identity as believers in Christ, that it's, and so how do you balance that tension between simply going into the difference between soul care and self-preservation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the biggest difference I would say is, like you said, asking about what your motives are. And we're going to need to distract ourselves sometimes. I'm not saying watching a Netflix show isn't a good idea every once in a while, or getting a manicure, doing a little shopping. I'm all about that stuff. My question needs to come, am I relying on those things for fulfillment? So that's the big distinction for me. Am I relying on those things for fulfillment? Or am I, like you said earlier, am I abiding? Am I drawing near? Am I taking care for the future? So that's the big distinction for me. I love your third tip that you gave. Was it watch out or take care? Yeah. So, yeah. And a couple tips for that, for church planting couples or people in ministry in general, is pay attention. Look for signs of burnout in one another's life. A couple of those might be weariness, withdrawal. And a big indicator for me, something that used to bring me joy has now become like I'm bitter about it. I'll give you a good example that every church planter can probably relate to is, in the beginning, you used to love to have people in your home. And then there came a point where you were like, if those people come over here and mess up my house one more time, I'm going to lose it. What used to be a joy has become, bitterness and anger. And so asking that question and letting yourself know, hey, we need to step back a little and care for ourselves.
I think that that's really good, because like for me, one of the indicators for me, because I would consider myself more of an extrovert than introvert. But whenever I get to the point where I'm like, I start imagining and dreaming about getting away on a retreat by
Right.
myself just to write and all that, I was like, okay, there's something going on inside of me that I need to tend to,
Right.
that I've been pouring out, and I need to, be able to show up in that way. And so, yeah, so I think that if you're sensitive to that, then I think it's really, really important
Mm-hmm.
to pay attention to those things and not just kind of continue just to push through, sacrifice, in that regard. So I think that's really good.
Yeah. And the other thing is we often need an invitation from someone close in our life.
Mm-hmm.
I know for women in particular, we need an invitation from our husbands a lot of times, or a close friend to say, hey, do you need to get away? How can I help that happen for you? What does that look like? What can I do to make that possible? Can I take care of your kids? Can I take this work thing off of your plate? So helping one another by inviting one another to care for our souls, that's really
good.
Countercultural.
And that's really what's, again, is important to me about that passage in Hebrews, where it tells us to keep drawing near to God in times of crisis. It tells us to keep holding on to the confession of our faith, but then it talks about to watch out for one another, but in the word, it talks about watching out, and it says literally irritate one another to loving and good deeds, and I think that idea of irritating one another means like, hey, and I think soul care is a part of that, is just being able to love yourself, and that's what the Bible tells us. It says, love one another as much as you love yourself, right? As you love yourself. And I think that is a reality that we have to understand, is that the reason why we fill up, the reason why we care, is so that we will have more to give. And
That's right.
And if we're not taking care of ourselves, we will have less and less to give. And what we'll start doing is that we'll operate out of the fumes and out of exhaustion, and that'll just down roads that we don't really want to go down.
That's right.
Yeah. So in your role, I mean, you do a big part for us in Sin Network, and just really caring for spouses, caring for planning couples all across North America. What are some ways, specifically in the midst of this pandemic, that you guys are wanting to continue to do that? Like, what are some things as a network that you are caring for our planning couples?
Yeah, we have worked diligently over the last couple of months, really contacting all of our planting wives through phone calls, handwritten cards. Our team has written, over 700 handwritten cards, just letting our planting spouses know how thankful we are for the incredible burdens they're carrying and the amount of people that they're shepherding. But also, we want our planting spouses to know that we're available to listen, to not try to fix their problems, but to just listen and be a safe place for them. We're working on building our online community and our social network groups, a lot of things like that.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask. Is there a certain place that people can come to right now? Or is there a certain, like, if I am a planning couple or a spouse and was like, man, I need something, I need care right now, and I don't know where to go, where would you point them to?
Yeah. So if you go to the Sin Network website, there's a section on there about planting spouses, and you can find some articles and blogs and a lot of our contact information. The other place is we have a Facebook group, and it's called NAM Spouse. NAM, this is great. I don't know what it's called. NAM Spouse Development. That's what it's called. The North American Mission Board Spouse Development page. And also you can reach out to me or Jackie Taylor or Kathy Litton at any time. We'd love to serve you in any way possible. Yeah,
I really love our team. I think our team is really, and if you are a planning couple out there and you are struggling with it, like, we understand no planning couple plants alone, and that's really something that we want to make sure that we are continuing to impress in you. And so if you need help, please, please, please come. If you need prayer, please let us know. I like the Facebook page, all the different resources that we put online for you. We want to hear from you. We want to pray from you specifically. And so let us know. River, what have been some of the things that you have been hearing, in these last couple of minutes? Like, as you've been reaching out to spouses, what are some common themes that you've been hearing?
One of our most common things we hear from planting women is, my husband has so much on his plate and I don't want to be a squeaky wheel. I don't want to need something else from him, you know? And so really for our planters, that's something that you need to be aware of, that she is so keenly aware of the load that you're carrying and she wants to support you in every way possible. And so we need our planting men to obviously then in return say, hey, you're actually my first ministry and my best thing that I can invest in. So that we hear that one a lot. And that as a planting wife, I totally get that. We know better than anyone else, the millions of voices and things pulling at our husbands. And it is hard to ask for what we need sometimes.
No, I think that's really good. And I just want to encourage you planters out there that this is something that you have to do. This is something that I have done in my family, that I'm doing on a consistent basis. And I'm literally like, I pencil in, I put it in ink, a time with my wife every single day. One, it forces me to shut off the day. And it's a time that it's a meeting on my calendar where I'm going in and we'll have time and we'll spend some time together. So it may be the first 15 and sometimes even 30 minutes. Like we'll read a chapter in a book or a couple of pages in a book, and it'll just allow us to kind of ease into our day. The other thing that I've been doing, and we've been doing for a while, we have a date night once a week still. We have a date day once a week still. So 2 times, we have intentional times that we are spending time that we're even telling the kids, like, because sometimes obviously with COVID, we're not able to go. So we've been saying, hey kids, this is mommy and daddy time. Do not bother us in mommy and daddy time. You know, and I'm creating those disciplines, because I think the best thing that we can even do for our children is give them a healthy marriage. The best thing that we can do for our churches is to give them a healthy marriage. So I just really want to encourage you that this is something that you got to prioritize, and you can't wait till kind of organically do this, because it will, everything else will crowd it out. You have to discipline yourself. So I want to really encourage you as planning couples to make sure that you are putting the time in on the front end. And so every Sunday, my wife and I, we sat down and we write out the week, you know, and we say, here's the times we are going to meet. And these are the non-flexible times that we're going to do, because we always give ourselves grace with that. And that'll be the one thing that will suffer. So I just really want to encourage you guys and just really affirm you, Rivers, for everything that you guys are bringing, what you guys are, you know, doing. And, you know, and I just want to encourage you guys as planning couples to, like, in these turbulent times, continue to take care of your souls, because it is critical for us, you know, to do that. Rivers, any parting words for us, words of wisdom, anything that you want to encourage us as we continue to take care of our souls in the midst of turbulent times?
We can end with this. You know, Moses told the Israelites in Deuteronomy, take care and keep your soul diligently, lest you forget the things that your eyes have seen. And so just like Dahadi's been saying, the reason we care for our souls is so that we can remember the testimony that God's given us and share it with those around us that are far from God.
Amen. Thank you, Rivers. This has been a great time. I hope that you guys are encouraged. I have been edified, and, you know, and we pray that God will be glorified because of you taking care of your soul. You cannot give what you do not have. You have to take care of your soul in the midst of turbulent times. All right? God bless you guys.
You have been listening to We Are Sin Network, a resource of the North American Mission Board. For more information about today's podcast and other relevant resources, visit sendnetwork.com.